Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. Coming up on today's program, the Texans sign an offensive lineman, and they could be making a few more moves. We have some news, some rumors, everything you need to know around the Houston Texans as we get closer and closer to the NFL trade deadline. Before we talk about the new signing and potential trade targets, we have an injury update coming in from Aaron Wilson. The Texans, they activate Jeff Okudah off of IR, as well as Jerry Hughes. Not the names that we were looking for. I know everybody's asking me. In my DMs, everybody's asking, Nico Collins, Christian Harris, what's the deal with these guys? Christian Harris, honestly, I have no clue. Nico Collins, I expect him to be activated this week off of IR, but if not, this Lions game might be a little rough on Sunday night. I'm still holding out hope that the Texans make a move at the trade deadline, but in terms of the injury updates, Jeff Okudah, the cornerback, is activated, and so is Jerry Hughes, the defensive end. Stay locked in and make sure you know everything going on around your Houston Texans, because whenever they make a move, a trade, whenever anything happens around this team, I got you covered. Daily videos around your Houston Texans here at Texans Today. And we are so close to 20,000 subscribers. We are 69 away from 20K. So go down and hit that sub button. It's 100% free and get us locked in for your daily Texans content. I got you covered here on the channel. Never miss a moment around your favorite team, and make sure you subscribe here to Texans Today. As the Texans do make a move signing Jerome Carvin to the practice squad. He was formerly with the Kansas City Chiefs, signed as an undrafted free agent. Last year was on the Bears practice squad, and now the Texans sign him to their practice squad. The former Tennessee Vol played 5 seasons in the SEC. Pretty good for the Tennessee Volunteers with his time in college. Not really that much so far in the pros, so I expect this to just be another depth signing. The likelihood that we see Jerome Carvin play on an NFL Sunday game for the Houston Texans is very, very low, because they also have another option on the practice squad, and that is Scott Quesenberry. He's currently on the Texans practice squad, center guard option. So if they do elevate somebody from the practice squad, I expect it to be Quesenberry over a guy like Carvin, who they just signed. So not the news that a lot of Texans fans were hoping and looking for during, this period before the NFL trade deadline and after the Kenyon Green injury news. And if the Texans, they don't make a move for an offensive lineman, I don't really count this as a move, because this is just a lower level signing, a guy who's going to be on the practice squad who more than likely will never see the field for this team on Sundays. They don't make a move for an actual legitimate starter, it will be a massive disappointment, because you need to protect CJ Stroud. You need to make sure this offensive line is solidified, because, we're talking about a team that everybody in Houston wants them to contend. Everybody in Houston expects them to make the playoffs. But what's going to happen once you get there? What's going to happen once you're playing in January? If you don't have an offensive line, you're going to get your butts whooped. You are going to have to walk back with your tail in between your legs and have another disappointing season with the Houston Texans if they can't get this offensive line figured out. That's my stance on it. I want to hear from you, though, at home. Be honest with me. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Scroll on down and let me know. Are the Texans screwed if they can't add an offensive lineman? Let me know yes. Let me know no. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Will the Texans be screwed if they can't sign an offensive lineman? Now, coming up, I'm going to break down some of the tiers of the offensive line trades that the Texans could potentially look at, as the NFL trade deadline is tomorrow, one day away. So let's look at first some names that are some unlikely options. The Texans could trade for these guys, but more than likely, I don't really see it going down that way. Zach Martin, Kevin Dotson, Dylan Parham, Brandon Scherff, and Mike Onwenu are all guys who have been thrown out there as possible trade targets, but either where their team is sitting or salary or whatnot, I don't see these trades being made. I actually talked to our Raiders Report host, Mitchell Renz, and with all the injuries the Raiders have right now and him being one of the younger guys on the team, he's saying Dylan Parham unlikely to be traded tomorrow at the NFL trade deadline. He's somebody that I've kind of been holding out hope for, but if the reports are true, it looks like the Raiders are going to keep their hands on Dylan Parham at least for this season. Same can be said about veteran guard Zach Martin for the Dallas Cowboys. Seems to be implosions in Dallas, but Zach Martin has been a Cowboy for his entire career, will likely make it to the Hall of Fame as a Dallas Cowboy. So I don't see Jerry Jones, his ego, his, ability to trade away guys like this. I don't see that happening with a guy like Zach Martin, even though I think he could be a good upgrade to the Texans roster. And the Cowboys this season is basically done for them. I mean, I don't see them really turning it around after the news around Dak Prescott and his injury status. More than likely, we won't be playing Dak Prescott when the Texans play them on Monday Night Football. But to get a guy like Zach Martin, I think the price, you'd have to give them an offer that they can't refuse. And I don't know if Zach Martin is worth trading a third, second-round pick for, even though he is really good. He's up there in age, and it'd be a yearly rental for a guy like Zach Martin. Coming up in just a moment, I'm going to give you some of my top trade targets that the Texans should consider going out and targeting at the NFL trade deadline. But got to tell you about our amazing sponsors of today's program, and that is Game Time, my go-to ticketing app. They should be your go-to ticketing app. There's nothing in the world like watching a live sporting event. Sharing those moments with friends and family is amazing. And I still remember my first Texans game that I went to. And that's why today's sponsor, Game Time, is such an amazing app because you can get tickets in seconds with just a few taps. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It is the place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. And they have a brand new feature called the Game Time Picks. It basically filters out all the fluff and allows you to find the very best bang for your buck. So you don't have to spend hours searching through thousands of tickets. It shows you the very best deals that they have on whatever event you're trying to go to, whether that is a Texans game, Rockets games are going on right now. There's a lot of concerts coming through Houston. Wherever you're at, check out the Game Time app. It is the place to find great deals on last-second tickets. And for my viewers, we have a special deal for you. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. So first, before I show you my very top trade targets for the Houston Texans, I want to go through some guys who they've been thrown around. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it in different articles of the Texans should go after this guy. The Texans should trade for this guy. And I think these are some guys the Texans could trade for, but won't necessarily move the needle, in my opinion. I've been seeing a ton of links towards the Texans and Chicago Bears guard Nate Davis. We remember that Bears game, right? The Texans-Bears game earlier in the year. The Bears' offensive line was horrendous, and Nate Davis was one of those guys who did not look good up against this Texans defensive line. So I don't get the idea of trading for somebody who won't necessarily be a massive improvement for this Texans O-line. Yes, it's another body in there, but is he better than what you have? Is Nate Davis better than Kendrick Green? Is Nate Davis better than Jarrett Patterson? I don't really see it as such. Same with Andre Dillard, another backup guy, another guy. If you're looking to just add some depth, maybe. Andrus Peat, another guy who has started in his NFL career, but right now isn't starting for the Raiders, and their O-line has not been good this season. Do you really want to add a guy like that? Evan Neal, a backup for the New York Giants right now, a former first-round pick. And out of all these guys, Evan Neal does intrigue me the most. A former top 10 pick, a former Alabama product. And we know how much DeMeco Ryans loves his Alabama guys. Could he come into the Texans system and live up to that potential of why he was drafted so high? Possibly, but for right now, coming in mid-season, I don't know how much Evan Neal helps you right now, instantly, if you trade for him at the NFL trade deadline. And Cesar Ruiz is another guy who, yes, he's played well, but I don't see the Saints necessarily trading him away because they have so many injuries along their offensive line. I know they just fired their head coach, Dennis Allen, and it doesn't look that good for the Saints in terms of making the playoffs or making a run this season. But do you trade away your only healthy offensive lineman in Cesar Ruiz, who you just extended this past year? I don't know if that makes that much sense for the New Orleans Saints in trading away a guy like Ruiz. Before I tell you my top trade targets, I want to know, is there another position the Texans should trade for? I've been focusing so much on the offensive line for good reason because they've been awful this year. But am I missing something? Because I see articles all the time. Texans need to trade for a wide receiver. Texans need another wide receiver. The Texans should go trade for T. Higgins. Texans need to trade for a corner. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't know if you need to trade for a wide receiver, trade for a corner. I think the only really glaring hole you have is on the offensive line. Maybe I'm blind to the fact because I'm so focused on the offensive line. But let me know, is there another position besides offensive line that the Texans need to trade for at the NFL trade deadline? Let's look at the top targets that the Texans need to be calling about today. Nick, call about these guys today. Joel Bitonio, guard for the Cleveland Browns. A little bit older, on the wrong side of 30, but could instantly step in and be your starting left guard, in my opinion. A really good veteran, very smart. I think pairing him next to Laremy Tunsil could be a good dub for the Houston Texans, along with his teammate, Wyatt Teller. Now, he's a little bit younger, might cost you a little bit more for trade compensation, but I like Teller as well. He's been injured this year, recently activated off IR this past week. Could be a good option if the Texans want to go a little bit younger and trade for a guy in Wyatt Teller. Another guy who the Texans need to be calling about right now, Andre James of the Las Vegas Raiders. Got signed to an extension this past offseason, but has not looked good. And the Raiders, even though they got whooped by the Bengals, their rookie offensive lineman, Jackson Powers-Johnson, looked really good at the center spot. So could they possibly say, hey, Andre, we don't really need you anymore. This rookie looks really good at the center position, and just trade away Andre James, who's having a little bit of a down year, but last year looked pretty good for the Raiders. I think this could be a viable option, and I would not be surprised if Andre James gets traded at the NFL trade deadline. Another name to keep an eye out on, and the Texans could have signed this guy in free agency, Greg Van Roten. Last year was amazing for the Raiders, signed with the Giants this offseason, and has continued to look pretty solid. Now, he's a New York native, and part of the reason why he signed is because he really wanted to, play for his hometown, play for New York. Could that be a reason why he doesn't want to get traded, a reason why he doesn't end up going on the move during the trade deadline, even though the Giants are abysmal this season? Possibly, but it's worth at least giving the Giants a call, giving Joe Schoen a call and saying, hey, what can we do to get Greg Van Roten on a rental this season? Need him for this year. Could be a really good plug-and-play option, a wily veteran that the Texans should consider trading for. And another guy who I haven't mentioned a ton, but as I look at him a little bit more, Brady Christensen for the Carolina Panthers. I believe the last year of his rookie deal has not been extended by the Panthers. A good option for the Texans if they want to add another interior offensive lineman. 8 games played, 0 sacks allowed this season for Christensen. Do the Panthers want to let go of another young offensive lineman? I don't know if they will, but they did just sign 2 guards this past offseason. Do they want to, spend big money? Do they want to, add more payroll to the interior of the offensive line, or do they want to possibly just draft somebody this offseason? I don't know if they're ready to get rid of them just yet, but if the Panthers are truly having a fire sale and want to get some draft picks for this next NFL draft, if I'm the Texans, I'm considering trading for Brady Christensen. I know he plays center, but can you possibly move him over to the guard position? 6'6", 300 pounds. Could be a good option for the Houston Texans as we get closer and closer to that trade deadline. And a reminder, I've got you covered here on the channel. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs for the latest Texans news and rumors on the interwebs. And we are so close, like I said, to 20,000 subscribers. Let's get there today. We're 69 away. If you haven't already, if you made it to the end of the video, hey, I'm obviously doing something right. Go down and hit that subscribe button for free Texans content all season long.